Hey, Shani from SpeedCubeReview.com. Let's talk about how Feliks is so fast. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I get very often people asking me, do I need to use X-Cross? Do I need to multi-slot for the first two layers? Do I need to learn ZBLL? And someone recently just asked, how does Feliks do F2L? He must be doing something different. The simple answer is he's doing exactly what you and I might do. Of course, he's efficient at it, but let's go over, what we're going to do is go over the 5 solves that he did to break the world record. This is during the Latin America cubing tour. Now, a couple things just real quick going over. X-Cross is when you make the cross, the plus sign on bottom, while also at least inserting one of the F2L pairs. So if you're inserting 2 of the pairs, that's like a double X-Cross. Multi-sliding is kind of what it sounds. It's inserting 2 F2L pairs kind of in the same time. I like to just describe it as inserting 2 pairs within the same flow of movements, because often it's just inserting one then inserting the other, but it's inserting it in one continuous motion. ZBLL is a set of algorithms that if you already have the cross on top, you are orienting and permuting the corners while also permuting the edges. So if you have a cross on top, it's kind of doing the corners OLL plus a PLL at the same time. Now in these solves, Feliks does do some X crosses and he does use some ZBLL algorithms, but majority of the time he does a regular cross, a majority of the time he does regular OLL PLL, and he basically does F2L kind of how you and I might do it. So let's go through those solves. So we're going to go through the 5 solves from Feliks's world record average. I'm going to give some notes about each one as we go through on how long or how many turns per second. I do need to give credit to the website Cube Solves, which I'll put a link in the description, and this person who has done a ton of work putting all the solves together, the reconstructions and things like that. So let's talk about this. So the first solve, here's the scramble. And he ended up doing the red cross. So for inspection, he did an X2 and a Y, put this in front. He did a X cross here, and I'll show you kind of what he did. So we have the different edges around, but he also paired up the green and white pieces. So we have the edge here, and then we have the corner right there. So I'll just kind of do a couple of the moves. So we first did a wide R prime, and then U prime. From here it makes sense just to put down these 2 edges and that is it. But what he did first was, after doing this R2, which put in that edge, he put in the green-red corner by doing F prime, U prime, F prime. And that put that corner in, that edge is right there, and D2 finished that up. After that we have the blue and yellow pair, which is already paired up right here. So that was just U2, and then insert. And then we had the blue and white pair. So we paired them up together, and then inserted them in the back. And then we had the 4th pair, which we paired them up, and then inserted that in. And then we have the OLL, and then a T permutation. And for that T permutation, he did that at about 18.75 turns per second. Let's look at the next scramble. Okay, so this next one was another X-Cross. Now before I go into exactly how this X-Cross was done, the X-Cross actually took about the same amount of time or slower than the other 3 solves that just had a regular cross with inserting the first pair. So although he did the cross and the first pair around the same time using the same, within the same algorithm, that doesn't mean it's actually going to be faster. So to do the cross and the first pair, it was that plus the blue-orange pair back here. And that paired those up and put that pair in. Now this is also where that sort of multi-sliding comes into play. So what I mean, it's kind of almost, I don't like calling it multi-sliding some of the times, because with this, it was just that he inserted this green and red pair, and at the same time it set up the green and orange, so just in one fluid motion, paired that up and inserted that. And then we had the 4th pair, this blue and red, and then OLL, And now this is really interesting. So this is an end permutation, and Feliks does a one that's sort of like a J perm, where you do RU, R prime U, and then J perm. And that's about 21 moves. But even though it's a lot of moves, and 7 more than if you did sort of this one, or if you just did it on the U face like this, even though it's like 7 more moves, it can be a lot more efficient. And when he's turning it at over 17 turns per second for that solve, it definitely can work. So now for this third solve, this one is the most straightforward. Just cross with 4 pairs, and then OLL and PLL, and this was one of the counting solves. It wasn't the slowest, wasn't the fastest. Did a red cross here, so setting it up like this, already have a couple pieces in, and it was actually just really nice to do. It's just R2, D, R2, F prime. Then we have the first pair, which is the yellow-blue, so that's setting it up. And then to insert it, it was just like that. Then we have the blue and white pair, and so it was just setting it up. And then a rotation, and like that. Then we have the green and yellow pair, and then we have the green and white. So we set it up. Now this is something that's kind of interesting. I think a lot of people would just insert it like that. He did a U2 and then insert it like this, which oriented one of the corners and gave him a soon case, and then another T permutation. So what do we take away from all this? First off, doing a X cross where you're solving the cross and the pair can lead to a faster solve, but it's not necessary, and it doesn't often even cause a faster solve in the end. What it does allow you to do is possibly plan the cross and the pair from the beginning, so you can already start looking for your second pair. Multi-slotting is often something that is thought of as different algorithms or something special, when really it's just being fluid in your solves, and often inserting pairs while still moving the puzzle and not stopping and having to do some other things. Sometimes there are times where you end up inserting pairs in between inserting another one, but still it's not really a set of algorithms. And lastly, learning things like ZBLL, although can be great, it doesn't mean it's going to be faster. So I definitely don't discourage anyone from learning these algorithms or learning how to do these new things. It's something that I myself am learning how to do. That last solve we looked at, the cross and the first 2 layers, were done in under 4 seconds. And most of his solves where the first 2 layers were done in 4 or less seconds. And you saw by a lot of these, it might be exactly what you would have done with those first 2 layers. It's all just pairing things up or setting things up and inserting them. There were still rotations. What's different is that Feliks is fast. His average turns per second was around 10. And for the last layer, the N permutation and T permutation like we saw, those turns per second were over 15, almost 20 turns per second. That is incredible. And the way you get there is by practice and just time. There's no big way to rush that, it just takes practice. That's really what I wanted to go over. Just going over his solves to see, does he do anything really crazy? Is there something that we're just not seeing? And a lot of it is a normal solve. It's just being able to recognize and execute at a very fast speed. So thank you very much. Please leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Hit like, subscribe for more content like this in the future, and as always, stop by speakcubeview.com for more news and reviews. So we have 2 more scrambles to go. And here we have the yellow cross. And for this one, so up like that, not an X cross, just a regular yellow cross. Then we have the red blue pair to start. So pairing them up and then inserting that. And then we have the orange and blue pair. So for that one, it was just really easy insertion. And then we have the orange and green pair. So that set it up, and then insert, and then the red and green pair, just like that. Now for this OLL, instead of just doing this like a regular OLL, he did furuf, which gave him that, and then he did a ZBLL. Now before we move on to the last one, I just want to say that that cross plus the 4 pairs took him about 3.14 seconds to do. And this is kind of the big thing I'm getting at. Even with using ZBLL, he got to the last layer with just over 3 seconds passing. And that is kind of the biggest note. So let's do this final one, then we'll talk about that just a little bit more. And so we set this up, and he did the red cross. And this was, again, kind of an easy one to do. And then the first pair was the blue and yellow pair. So first it was pairing things up like that, and then inserting. Then we had the green and yellow pair. And then we had the green and white pair. So we pair it up. And then finally the last pair where it was just set up like this. And then again, ZBLL. And there we go.